Thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you for the introduction. Hellen Onkwani is my name. I serve in Nairobi, a criminal court, and we deal with these cases on a day-to-day basis. And much appreciation to the Pontiff Academy and International Association for Women Judges for organizing this. I will confess here, but the first time for me to deal with the Trafficking Act was last year. I dealt with a case of smuggling in persons. That is the time I came and I knew there's even a law on trafficking in persons. And then this year, that was 2 weeks ago, we had a training on trafficking. So in essence, I'm looking at it, majority of my colleagues don't even know what it means on trafficking in human persons. Because majority of the cases, as I'm going to look at it, they come in other forms. That is as immigration cases, yes, prostitution, and all that. And majority are the victims actually who suffer. I don't know whether this is going to work. I don't know where I need to point it to. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, finally it worked. Oh. It's not working. Yes, that is the challenges of technology. Down, all right. Okay, so everyone here knows what it means, trafficking. I'm going to look at it in the Kenyan scenario from that definition. Majority is on the issue of fraud and deception and abuse of power or position of vulnerability. Because look here, what happens is that our girls are taken to the Middle East and they're promised for a better pay, jobs and all that because they are not well schooled, good earnings, child marriage, and forced marriage. In our Kenyan coast, that is where we have the Indian Ocean. And that is where the tourists come from Europe. And I'm happy today that this conference is happening here in Italy, because majority of actually the clients are Italians who come looking for the young girls for sex. And it is a business, and it's booming business, where they get the young girls, and they're not young Italians, they're very old Italians. Yes, they have the money. Those girls have not gone to school. Yes, of course, their parents are told, you know, a girl once they are above 10 years of age, yes, they can be married off to an Italian, and they're going to get money, and they're going to have food to put on their table for their families. We have even cases of where married women, they're married for a period to the Europeans when they come as tourists, and they're able to get their earnings, and the marriage ends, and even it's their husbands actually who are giving their wives away. So that is the practical scenario. So those are some of the Kenyan laws that we have. We have the Counter Trafficking in Humans Act, that is number 8 of 2010, and as you can see, it's a new law. And then I will talk about the Kenya Citizenship and Immigration Act, that is for the year 2011, because majority of actually the victims, they are charged under that law. Then we have the Constitution of Kenya, which protects on the rights, the international laws, which are ratified by Kenya, including all the trafficking laws have been ratified by Kenya under Article 2.5 of the Constitution. We have Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act. It's a 2017 case, where if people are getting the money, it's proceeds of crime, then there's a law that is preventing that, and even the money is frozen and all that. We have the Victim Protection Act. That is the act where the victims, once they're usually arrested, then the Victim Protection Agency comes in. They are protected for a period, like they can only hold them for like a week or 2 weeks, so that then they can be able to to testify in court before then they can be released. Then we have the Prevention of Terrorism Act. Common nationalities traffic to or through Kenya. We have the Nepalese, Indians, Ugandans, and Tanzanians. Nepalese and the Indians are being brought to Kenya, and that is in Westlands area. they are brought many, many young girls who don't know what they're coming to do. They are put in a house where they are being used for sex, for dancing naked in Nairobi and all that. And once they are arrested, they're the ones who are actually brought to court, and they're charged for being in Kenya illegally under the Immigration Act. Of course, now by that time, they're being held in safe houses, that is by the Victim Protection Agency, till they give their testimony. And then we have a problem when we have the Nepalese and the Indians, because then there is the issue of translation. They do not understand the language. We don't even know ourselves whether what the translator is telling them is the correct thing. Because most of the time, they will tell you it is true. We are here illegally. So that, because they are told, if you say it is true, then you are going to be taken back to your country. So it is really hard for us to be able to get the information, who is doing it, how is it being done? Because we don't understand, there's the language barrier. Ugandans, what is happening is that we are having young girls from Uganda, my sisters. They're very, very young. They're being brought to Kenya. They work as domestic workers. And those are now the cases that we are hearing. Because now the person who is, it is a big crime. It is organized in the sense that there is a person who is organizing them from Uganda. There is the person who is receiving them in Kenya. There is the person who is distributing them. And now we don't know where the money is going. So those are some of the new cases. Those are the majority of the cases now that we hear. At least what happens in such a scenario is that then the immigration department will request for the victims, those are the Ugandan girls, to be taken back to their country. Then after they testify, then we remain with the Kenyans who are doing it. But then we don't know what happens with the ones who are bringing them from the other side, that is from the Ugandan side. Then we have the Tanzanians. Here it is for children. Children, especially physically challenged children. Those are the ones you find in the streets of Nairobi, begging for money, begging and there are people who actually are getting that money. Because those children are brought in the morning, and they're somewhere where they're going, we don't know where they're going, and they're brought every morning, and they'll be begging in the streets so that people give them money, and there's someone who is behind it. The reasons for trafficking, we have talked about it: prostitution, child labor, sales for the organs, cure for HIV/AIDS. These are some of the things that we are reading in the papers, but they never get light of day. Like to South Africa, there's the belief that if they sleep with very young children, then they're going to be cured for HIV/AIDS. So children will be taken there as young if they get young girls. I'm told if the less the age, if they are 5 to 10, the better. I wanted to talk about the issue for sale for organs. I handled one case in Nairobi where it is a clinic operated in the slums. And this clinic, what happens is that women from the slums go there to deliver. And then once they deliver, they are told that the child died. So then the child is sold. But then the question is, where are these children being sold to and for what purpose? That is what we never get to know. Who are the actors? We have the parents, like I've talked about the coast region. The parents are the ones who are giving out their children to be trafficked for prostitution, for whatever reason, to Europe, and they get the money. Then we have the agents who we never see in court, and we don't know who they are and where they are from. Because one of the Nepalese cases which I handled, and here they pleaded guilty to immigration laws, and they said they were in Kenya illegally and they were taken back to their country. They said for them, their parents, in their mitigation, when they were mitigating, they were saying their parents are sick, they have cancer, and they are here. Actually, they were told they are coming here to work and to get the money. So I asked them, are you paid? They said no. The money is given to an agent, and then it's the agent who gives the money. And then when you're asking the prosecution, where are these, the agents and all that, how did you get here? No one is telling you that. Then we have the guardians, we have the relatives, and we have cases now of children's homes. That is even the worrying scenario, where actually the children's homes, you think it's a safe place where the children are being taken to, and these are the people who are now trafficking the children for whatever purpose. Why Kenya as the transit point for victims? We have the Indian Ocean. where is a major link to the East Africa region. Issues of conflict, post-election violence and all that, where children are separated from their parents and all that. We have weak enforcement mechanisms, and we have weak border point control. Because then you're asking yourself, how did these Ugandans, how did the Tanzanians get into Kenya if there was the border control? Of course, the issue of corruption is a major issue, and that is why we are not seeing the real perpetrators in court. There's also the issue of entry into Somali for the terrorists, where youth who are unemployed, actually they are promised for a good job and all that, and what happens in such a scenario, they're taken there, and we don't know what happens. Humanitarian disasters, I've talked about that. There's also the issue of drugs, heroin, cocaine, and all that. Because you look at the coast region, because of these drugs, they're stimulants, in the sense that they don't know what they're doing. Children as young as 10, they're taking drugs and all that. So there's also a growing domestic market for illicit drugs. The international flights, we are connection to the East Africa region. So we are like the transit point and all that. As where they have to pass through the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport where she works and go to other places. The issue of corruption among law enforcers and custom officers, it is a major, major issue. Challenges in handling these trafficking cases, we have the lack of safe houses for the victims, we have the language barriers, we have lack of interpreters, we have long trial procedures due to the complexity of trafficking cases. But in our court, what we have tried to do is actually we hasten the hearing of such cases so that the victims can be able to testify before they are repatriated. We don't have specialized courts to handle trafficking cases, and victims are charged under the immigration laws. Instead, the victims are the ones who are charged instead of the perpetrators. And the perpetrators are never arrested. So the authorities' efforts to fight these crimes, we have the United Nations on Drugs and Crime. It has been training some of us. We have the Office of the Public Prosecution, the Judiciary, we have the Anti-Terrorism, Police Units, Immigration Department, and the Victim Protection Unit. Statistics, this is a new area. Yet to finalize any of the cases, except the ones which they have pleaded guilty to immigration and all that. And major trafficking cases never get to the courts. Because of what? Because of corruption. So social awareness on trafficking, it's a major concern. There is lack of knowledge on the existing laws, and there's also ignorance. The way forward is that we need training for the judicial officers, prosecutors, police on trafficking of the laws. I'm just thinking about myself, if I got to know about it, how many of my colleagues even know that such laws exist and such issues happen? How does it even happen? They don't know about it. There is need to establish specialized courts to deal with trafficking cases. We need to create awareness on the various forms in which trafficking manifests itself, because then it is now that I'm learning on many other ways here on how it happens. In the Kenyan schools, we have now free education. I think the issue of trafficking, in some areas like in the coast region, it is supposed to be like a compulsory course for them to learn this. If this is happening, then this is trafficking, so that they know. Then there is the issue of economic empowerment to women and girls. It's because of poverty. That is why a majority of them go into this. That is all. Thank you so much. Did you specifically ask?